What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Or at least Lone Wolf? What's going on, gang? What's happening, buddy? How we doing out there? Didn't expect to be talking to you guys again this quickly. Didn't realize we were going to be doing a early morning show for a 12:20 slate for DraftKings only. Kind of a DraftKings special this morning. FanDuel opting for a 5-game slate starting at 6:40. DK going with the 9-gamer starting at 12:20. Makes a lot of sense. Always fun when they split things up. But we're going to talk it through. I'm building one lineup for DraftKings just for the hell of it since we're talking about it. I'm trying to decide on my final spots right now as I do that. It's an interesting slate. A lot of pitching available. I think there's a lot of different directions you can go. I'm kind of keyed into, I think, a Twins for value and then trying to get some Braves in there with a decent pitching combination. A little bit difficult on this one. A lot of high prices. A lot of the pitchers that you want are at fairly high prices on this one. Got some folks trickling in now. We're up to 5. Early morning. I know the other site's going with their show since 10 o'clock. Saw that they were on, so I'm sure there's a couple people hanging out over there. But what's going on, gang? Hope the coffee's hot. Hope the weed is fresh for the Wake and Bake crew. We'll dive right into this thing. We're going to go right up to 12:20 because I don't have to bail to build lineups or anything like that. So we'll just keep on talking up until lock. But let me get us squared away here. So an interesting slate, like I was saying. Pretty deep for pitching. Considering we've got a guy like Aaron Nola all the way down here. Granted, he's going up against the Atlanta Braves. Not the best matchup in the world. Which leads me to think maybe I shouldn't be looking to roster Braves. Might poke around a little bit, see what else is out there. Really like the options up at the top of the board. George Kirby going up against the Athletics. Another potential dominant spot. Seth Lugo getting a shot against the Rockies. Not a lefty, so probably not the utter dominance that we saw out of Blake Snell yesterday. But Seth Lugo's got a pretty good shot at putting up a pretty strong game here as well. He's a talented pitcher in his own right. And the Rockies are bad against both hands. Merrill Kelly, good shot to put up a solid game against San Francisco. Projects out really high. Was kind of surprised by that one. Gets a pretty fair innings projection to get to that point. But I thought it was fairly realistic, so I think we're leaving it there. Bailey Ober, I'm a little concerned about the ballpark in Cincinnati. Obviously a very good pitcher, but definitely not the best park to pitch in by any means. Comfortable projection, though. Logan Webb, I like a lot. Very talented pitcher. Pitches deep into games. League leader for innings pitched. Hunter Green, another capable guy. We're also working in that Cincinnati ballpark. I like the Twins for value on the other side of that game, but both of those teams rank out well offensively. So while both of those pitchers project well, I'm kind of concerned about it. Looks like a four corners game, though. Luke Giolito, could definitely get something out of him. Very cheap at 7,600 on the DK slate. I think that's an interesting SP2 option. Nola, tough matchup against the Braves, but he's Aaron Nola. Hasn't pitched like Aaron Nola completely this season, but he is Aaron Nola. It still says so on the back of his jersey. Kyle Bradish, decent, terrible spot. Decent pitcher, terrible spot going up against the Astros. Bayo, again, another guy, not as good as Bradish, I don't think, but a decent pitcher, another tough spot. Josiah Gray, not that great a pitcher, decent spot going up against the White Sox, who disappointed us utterly last night outside of Luis Robert and who hit the other home run? Joan Moncada. Outside of those guys, White Sox let me down a little bit in that value stack yesterday. John Gray against the Red Sox all the way down here could succeed. Christian Javier having a terrible season for him. Very cheap pricing. Bryce Elder, talented guy. Bad matchup, cheap pricing. Bottom of the board thins out on the last 4 guys. But deep, deep pitching slate. I like this one a lot in terms of the available arms. Let's get into some of the hitters. So first game up, 10,000, 9,000 for Aaron Nola, 24.9% strikeout rate on the season, but a 4.62 ERA with his 3.79 xFIP. Not the best Nola season in the world by any means. He struggled a little bit. He's had his blips throughout the season, giving up a little bit too much power this year. Weird amount of power for Aaron Nola, 4.16% home run rate. That's up from 2.35 last year, 3.47 the year before. That'll drive your ERA right up. That's why the xFIP's a little bit better. 38.1% hard hits, 8.4% barrels, inducing fewer swinging strikes. He's walking a few more, striking out a few less. So there's a lot of reasons to be concerned about Nola. He's going up against the best lineup in baseball, so that's never really something that we get overly enthusiastic about tangling with. So I think we can leave Nola to the side. You can go to him if you want for 10,000. You can include him in your pool, take a few shares if you're building out 150 lineups for this thing. I think you take a few shares, but it's pretty limited. It hasn't been a successful spot this year, taking Nola against the Braves that I can remember. Not that that's predictive, but just the nature of the way that he's pitching this season, I think going up against this lineup, just not worth it. Bryce Elder on the other side, only 18.2% strikeouts, but pitches pretty well. Keeps the ball down typically. Doesn't give up too many home runs. 2.46% home run rate. 8.2 degree average launch on a 6% barrel rate. 3.50 ERA, 4.33 xFIP. Doesn't blow anybody away. Doesn't light up the world for fantasy scores. But a capable pitcher. Might give us 6 clean innings. Might book you the win, the quality start, whatever you're looking for. 72 on the DK slate. I don't think that's unplayable necessarily, going up against this Phillies team. I know I didn't love Spencer Strider here, and he succeeded just by the skin of his teeth last night. Got out of that sixth inning, third time through the batting order, gave up that 3-run home run to Bryce Harper, but then managed to book the quality start, got the win, and came out with a successful fantasy score. Still wasn't quite as valuable as Blake Snell, but it was neck and neck the whole way. I could see Bryce Elder succeeding here for the money. It's a completely different scenario. Bryce Elder only has to put up an okay score for this money, where Strider had to put up a dominant start and be basically perfect. So Elder, not off the SP2 board at 7,200 for sure. Looking at the lineups, you can definitely roster hitters on both sides. I greatly prefer the Braves side, especially considering what the impact that Elder has on the home run values here. Kyle Schwarber pushing a 7.17. Everybody else 3 or around 3. 3 or below. 3.29 for Nicky Castellanos is number 2 on the team. He's got 25 homers. Trey Turner's got 26 with 28 stolen bases, a 109 WRC+. Everybody in the Phillies from 1 through 7 above average for WRC+ this year. Jake Cave, Garrett Stubbs filling in at the bottom of the lineup. Mix and match type options. Cave's got 5 home runs, 3 steals, and 179 with an 80 WRC+. And Stubbs is at a 51 with no home runs in his 109 plate appearances behind as a catcher. I almost said plate appearances behind the plate, which would be a weird position to take up with the bat in your hands. A lot of hit by pitches in that spot. So Schwarber's a monster power hitter. You can definitely roster him. You go to Trey, obviously, if you're going to Phillies, and Bryce Harper. They're clear cut. Alec Bohm having a very good, kind of underappreciated season. 17 home runs, 277, 333, 40-33, a 107 WRC+. Fills 2 positions on FanDuel. These are the all-day prices on FanDuel, by the way, just because that's the only slate that matched this one. So just I gotta mentally just try and ignore FanDuel. This is a DraftKings show. And you can play the FanDuel all-day slate. Enjoy that. Their prize pools suck for the all-days. So Bryson Stott, Alec Bohm, 4,600 over there. Pretty good price at third base. Bryson Stott, 4,700. Not a bad option at second base. He's hit 15 home runs, stolen 29 bases, created runs 3% better than average with a good triple slash all year. Brandon Marsh is a really compelling option for only 33. 10 home runs on the board, a 123 WRC+. He gets on base like crazy, 372 on base, 281, 372, 451 overall with a 47.4% hard hit. That's the kind of guy that can succeed against this pitcher without necessarily hitting a home run. And then Castellanos having a decent season, cooled off a lot over the last couple of months, but overall the numbers are pretty good for Nicky Castellanos. We know that he's a very good hitter over time, so you can absolutely include him in stacks. So priority bats are 1 through 7. Bats I actually would be looking to would be like 1, 2, 3, and then it's really any combination of these guys is fine. My preference to help pay down, I guess, for those guys, I would include Brandon Marsh to get a little salary relief, and I wouldn't want to use the third outfielder necessarily. I'd probably go to Stott just because of the positioning at second base. That's an expensive stack, though. I mean, that's $5,200 average, 26-1 total. So it's a pricey but worthwhile stack outside of the fact that Elder saps power. Good opportunity, not great. On the Braves side, it's the everyday version of the lineup, except for Nicky Lopez hanging out at the bottom here. Acuna, Albies, Riley, Olsen, 4 of the best players at their position. 39, 31, 36, and 52 home runs on the season. 35 home runs in the middle for Marcell Ozuna in the outfield, 4,634, way too cheap for him. Eddie Rosario in the lineup, 38-29. He's got 21 home runs. Sean Murphy's got 20 as a catcher. Michael Harris has 18. And then there's Nicky Lopez, so we don't get no Orlando Arcia today. Nicky Lopez, not exactly Arcia out there. Not exactly a perfectly viable fill-in, but at least he's very cheap. He fills second and third base on DK for 29. I greatly prefer everyone else in the lineup. Any combination 1 through 8 of the Braves that you can figure out how to afford is totally playable, even with Aaron Nola on the mound. Not a lot going on in chat. Lightly attended show so far. It's okay. Had a feeling it was going to be. DraftKings only in this stupid early slate. Everybody's probably at work or still asleep. Took me a minute to get out of bed. Or out of couch anyway. I was laying there like, if I don't do the show, nobody will care. And I said I would do it. Want to do it. Wanted to make a lineup for this stupid slate. So here we are. 10th person just came in to hang out with us. Appreciate that. I know you're here, Lone Wolf. I said hi to you, pal. No worries. I'd be here. I'd sit here talking to myself, and then maybe, with the thought that somebody would start it up at noon on a pre-record. Right? Just for the hell of it. Conscious is here. What's up, Conscious? I like the name. That's the state of mind I'm trying to maintain through the rest of this show. And then we'll see whether I go take a nap or not. Bailey Ober, Hunter Green. Like I referred to at the top of the show, both project out pretty well for this slate. Both guys up kind of near the top of the board. Fairly priced for their talent. 8,100, 9,000. Not bad price-wise. I just hate pitchers in this ballpark. And I'm getting good numbers on both sides for both of these teams. The Reds ranked second overall by fantasy point projections, third by FanDuel value, fifth by DK value, and fifth by home runs. The Twins, third by projections, first by value on both sides, fourth by home run upside. So, yeah. If you're building out 150, I think you can both sides this one, or all four sides this one. If you're only building one lineup, I think you lean bats rather than pitching. Even though I do trust the projection on both of these pitchers, and I think they're talented guys, just a lot of value in this game anyway. So you probably don't want to skip it for value, like a lot of cheap Twins bats, fairly priced Reds bats, some expensive ones as well, and some decisions to make like Christian Encarnacion Strand or Joey Votto at first base on the DK slate. But I prefer the bats by a little bit, largely because of the ballpark. But Bailey Ober, pretty good this season. 3.67 ERA, a 4.35 xFIP, only walking 5%, 24.4% strikeout rate. A 3.87% home run rate is a little bit problematic, especially in this ballpark. That's not the kind of thing you want to come carrying into Cincinnati. Over the last handful, yeah, a little bumpy for Ober over the last handful too. Not terrible. He's two earned runs exactly in 3 of his last 4. With 6 strikeouts, 3 strikeouts, and 6 strikeouts. 5 earned runs in the middle in only 4 innings. Struck out 4 in that one. But he hasn't been pitching deep. He hasn't finished 6th since July 23rd. 4 innings, 5 innings. He hasn't even pitched in the 6th since July 23rd. So a little bit concerning there. In addition to the home runs, just what the depth might look like. They might be just, kind of easing him in terms of managing his arm. He pitched... Yeah, only 56 innings last year, 92 and a third in 2021. So we're up to 127 and 2/3. This is his high point for innings in his career. He's 28. It's not like he's a young kid, but a fragile guy that they've had to kind of manage. I think they might be managing his innings down toward the end of the season here. So just puts another ding on the Bailey Ober play. Hunter Green, dominant strikeout rate at 30.1%, one of the better strikeout rates available on this slate. That said, we are dealing with a lot of walks. 10.5% walks, a 3.50% home run rate, 8.8% barrels, 43.6% hard hits, 90 plus miles an hour of exit velo. We all know what that equals. But the strikeouts, the swinging strike rate is terrific, 13.7%, 4.45 ERA, 4.13 xFIP, and a 1.40 WHIP. That tells the story. Too many opportunities delivered by the walks, some runs created by the power. In his last few, he's pitched into the 6th in the last 3 straight, completed 6 2 starts ago against St. Louis, 5 1/3, 3 starts back at San Francisco with 6 strikeouts, no earned runs. No earned runs in that St. Louis start either, and then give up 3 the last time out with a home run, 5 2/3, struck out 6 at the Mets. So they're giving him a little bit of leash. The fact that he's gotten that depth is encouraging because he came back, he was out after June 17th, came back on August 20th, went 3 2/3, and then fully stretched out again and seems to be getting full run here. So if you're going to this game for pitching, I think it would be Hunter Green would be the preference, even with the $900 additional salary, just for the bigger strikeout rate and the idea of potentially an additional inning. But I don't like the pitching that much on either side. I think I'm preferring bats here. A lot of home run power on the Twins side. Edward Julian in the top spot, 11.08 to sit second on the team behind Max Kepler, who I made the home run pick of the day last night at 4 o'clock in the morning when I put up the home run article. 4,500 for Max is pretty cheap, 12.1% barrels, 48.7% hard hits, 22 home runs, and a 221 ISO. Pretty solid season out of Max. Jorge Polanco, very interesting for 4,900 at second base, 14.5% barrels, 42% hard hits, 13 home runs, and only 317 plate appearances. Guy who's been over 30 in his career, not done hitting for power by any means yet. Julian's really interesting for only 41. You get him at first or second base. Premium contact galore, 14 home runs and only 367 plate appearances. Not bad at all. Donovan Solano for 2,800. I like going with him at first base because he's so cheap. He helps pay down the average. But there's other guys, if you want to leave first base open for a different player from a different team, you can put Julian at second base or Polanco at second base. Take Kepler, take Castro, or take Kyle Farmer. Although you're going second and third base with him as well. A little bit not exactly ideal getting a player like Solano at first base just because of a lack of power overall. He's a very good hitter, 283, 367, 399, creates runs 17% better than average, even a 43.3% hard hit rate. Just doesn't hit many home runs, 5 homers, not ideal. But if he gets on, if he's correlating directly with Max Kepler, that's a plus. Willie Castro, 3,200, 2,700. I got to stop saying the FanDuel price. It's so irrelevant. Castro's stolen 31 bases, 100 league average WRC plus. Kyle Farmer, I think I've talked about a bunch of times this season. Double-digit home runs each of the last few years. He's up to 11 this season in 330 plate appearances. Not a premium player by any means, but he fills 2 positions for only 2,700, second and third base. I think that's an interesting piece of value. Andrew Stevenson for the dead minimum in the outfield. Hasn't done much with his season so far in 27 plate appearances, but very, very cheap. Vasquez, kind of a lost year, 6 home runs in 327. And then Michael A., who you guys know I like, 12.7% barrel rate, 37.1% hard hits, 20 home runs and 13 stolen bases and 357 plate appearances that nobody ever owns. Like that option a lot. 9th in the lineup, of course. Kareem Hunt agrees to a 1-year deal with the Browns 8 minutes ago. Hope you picked him up on your waiver wire. I got him in, I think, 1 league. Greg P. and Cone, I haven't even finished my Fruit Loops yet. Sir Spencer to Kings here. What's up, Spence? Up to 21. Saw a little bit of an uptick over the last few minutes. That's good. I got to figure out what I'm doing with this lineup. I think I'm going to... Maybe I stretch the Twins out a little bit. Go to a 5-man Twins. I was originally going to do like a 3-man Twins. So if I do that, and then I could put... I go Farmer at third and Julian at second. That's kind of interesting. So if you do... I know I don't normally do it like this. So if you had Solano, Julian, Kyle Farmer, Kepler, and Taylor, that would leave 3 positions open. I won't reveal who my 2 pitchers are, but you'll be able to figure it out. I have 3 positions open, catcher, shortstop, and outfield with 5,300 to spend. I don't know where I want a catcher, shortstop, and outfielder from the same team, though, considering Orlando Arcia is not playing for the Braves, and they're going up against Aaron Nola. Well, we'll find one along the way, I think, gang. So if we're looking at the Reds side, Jonathan India, one of their better everyday players overall, 5% worse than average creating runs this year. Decent for counting stats with 16 homers, 13 steals, but a little bit of a down season overall for India. Although actually he was at 95 WRC plus last year too. 122 2 years ago, 21 homers, 12 steals. So India's capable, decent second baseman, gets the benefit of playing in a good lineup, good ballpark for offense. TJ Friedl, 4,800, 3,100, 14 homers, 24 steals, a 106 WRC plus. Steer having a very good year, 22 homers, 15 steals, a 117 WRC plus. A lot of positive run creators in this lineup. Fraley, 15 homers, 21 steals, 114. Encarnacion Strand's up to 8 home runs in 201 plate appearances, 48.1% hard hits, 9.3% barrels. Starting to come around a little bit, up to a 101 WRC plus. Joey Votto, 14 home runs in only 222 plate appearances. Ridiculous. 206, 306, 454. Not doing any favors to his career average, his career on base, but he had enough padding there that he can destroy those for a little bit and hit for power. Noelvin Marte hasn't done a ton in his 87 plate appearances, but a productive triple slash. 304, 368, 405, a 109 WRC plus. 6 stolen bases isn't bad. 1 home run. It's a pretty good line overall. Will Benson, 303 plate appearances, a 125 WRC plus, has been very involved, has been an interesting player all season for cheap from the bottom of the lineup. 11 home runs, 15 steals. Luke Malley, playable catcher, 5 home runs on the board in the 183 plate appearances. Decent 10.2% barrel rate, if nothing else. A lot of strikeouts at the bottom of the lineup for sure. But decent upside for offense on both sides of this one, so I'd probably go just because they value out a little bit better. I think I put the Twins slightly ahead. Well, yeah, I'll put the Twins slightly ahead, get the plate appearance out of the visiting team. Slightly cheaper, slightly better value spot. But like I said, the Reds actually rank second by projections and only, slightly worse by points per dollar. So I think both of these offenses are good. And then if I'm ranking the pitchers, it's probably Hunter Green over Bailey Ober. I think we've got an innings cap around 5 on Bailey Ober. Might be problematic. White Sox and the Nats. Let's see if we got lineups here. We do not. No lineups in yet. Oh, wait. Let me reload this. Hasn't been dropping them yet. Yep. Nope. Still not here. This game starts at 1:05. Michael Kopech, I believe, is only opening this game. I'm not sure who's following. Let me see. Kopech opening. And doesn't say who is following. Let's see if anybody else has it. Hold on. Nah. If anybody out there knows who's following, just drop it in. It probably won't matter. Kopech last time out, an inning as an opener. 2 strikeouts, gave up 4 earned runs. Hasn't been very successful in this opener role. Actually, it looks like, I guess those were pure relief. Because he didn't get a start. So he opened once, won an inning and 2/3, gave up 2 earned runs. That was back on the 3rd against Detroit. And then it looks like pure relief. An inning, 2/3 of an inning, and an inning. Gave up a run, and 4 runs. Not great. So we're not playing Michael Kopech. 7,200, he wasn't cheap enough anyway. Going up against the Nats, that does support the idea of some upside for the Nationals. The White Sox drawing some power, of course, against Josiah Gray with his home run issues, but he's wrangled that pretty well this season. So Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, maybe a little bit of Andrew Vaughn, believable power, but still there's a lot of mediocrity in this White Sox lineup. They're still very, very cheap. They don't look as good for value as they did yesterday. They rank just 10th on both sites for value. Obviously, we're primarily here for DK. They do hit 3rd on the board for home run upside, just because there's still a lot from Josiah Gray's 5.86% home run rate last year, 6.19 the year before. But he's cut that down to 3.23 this year. He's got a 4.07 ERA, a 5.15 xFIP, striking out 20.3%. If he was slightly better, he'd be interesting at 6,500 against these White Sox. I don't think he's out of play. There's not a ton of super cheap SP2s on the board at all today. So I think, given that he's that cheap, he's going up against kind of a pushover team like the White Sox, there is a little bit of interest there. He's not a priority. I hope to avoid him. He walks 11.5%. He's got a 1.47 whip. Still does give up some premium contact. It's not like he's perfectly clean. So I don't like the spot, but as a cheapo guy, I do think he's on the board a little bit. I greatly prefer the bats. Probably prefer the Nationals side which is weird to say. CJ Abrams, 92 WRC plus, 300 on base. Needs to work on the on base. Everything else is pretty much in line. 18 homers, 42 steals is very, very good. Needs to get on a little bit more. Create runs a little bit better. But a good option today at 4,800. Leighton Thomas, 4,800. Joey Meneses, Keibert Ruiz, 3,800. Meneses, 41. Meneses more of a pure hitter than a power hitter. He's got 12 home runs on the board, 279, 326, 406, creating runs 1% worse than average. Thomas is by far their best player, 25 homers, 19 steals, a 109 WRC plus, the only positive run creator in the starting or the projected starting lineup. Keibert Ruiz, definitely a very good catcher option, 10% strikeout rate, 5.8% walk rate. Doesn't hit for a ton of power, has more power than we've seen, 17 home runs on the board, but only a 147 ISO. Doesn't make tremendous premium contact. There's a better bat lurking there, I think. Dom Smith, we talked about yesterday, 10 home runs. Just kind of a disappointing career so far for Dom Smith. 2,800, pretty cheap at first base. Carter Kaboom, 32, pretty cheap at third base. Luis Garcia, 9,600, not a pitcher, but a mediocre infielder. Jake Alou, Jake Young, a little bit of speed late in the lineup, but haven't done much in terms of run creation, on-base percentage, or batting average. White Sox side, Tim Anderson got on base a couple times yesterday, up to a 65 WRC plus overall, still the same home run and 13 stolen bases. Benintendi still the same 5 home runs and 13 stolen bases, only a 91 WRC plus. Luis Robert hit his 37th home run of the season yesterday. 17 stolen bases, a 128 WRC plus. Just a monster year out of him. He's doing it all by himself, unfortunately, though. Eloy Jimenez, 17 home runs, put a big fat 0 in my lineups yesterday. Joan Moncada did not. He hit his 9th home run, up to 95 WRC plus. Still kind of a season of mediocrity from Moncada at best. Andrew Vaughn's got 20 on the year. Not exactly the season they were hoping for. They kind of were hoping, I think, that he would break out a little bit more than he has. It's an okay season. 258, 314, 432, creating runs 3% better than average. But I think they were hoping for a little bit more out of Vaughn. Justmani Grandal, mix and match catcher. Gavin Sheets, mix and match $2,700 first base outfield option. Lennon Sosa, $2,400. You can mix him in, but he hasn't done much in 147 plate appearances. 5 home runs is interesting, but a 34 WRC plus, a 141 ISO, not great. Jake Swales is here. Yo, happy hump day. Schulten's after Kopech. Okay, thanks, Josh. Appreciate that. Do not roster Jesse Schulten's either. All the more reason to roster Nationals bats. Schulten's a target. Kopech's a good pitcher overall. Hasn't done it at all this year. 22.7% strikeouts, 15.5% walks, a 5.47 ERA, and a 5.69 xFIP in 26 starts. But he's probably the more talented of the two between him and Schulten. So I think you can fire up some Nationals bats, but both teams pretty low priority in terms of their bats. Nats were, near the bottom of the board. The White Sox, they're 16th and 17th on the board by fantasy point projections. Put it that way. White Sox are flashing a little bit of power with Josie Gray on the mound. If I had to rank it, I wouldn't want to. I guess I'll go with the power. I'll go with the White Sox bats slightly ahead of the Nationals bats, but not really. And then Josiah Gray on DK at 6,500 as the only playable part at pitcher, although I don't really want to go there. Bo Sox, Rangers. We have the Red Sox lineup. Sedan Rafaela back in the leadoff spot. Always interesting. Let's grab this one. This is another one where I think both pitchers have talent. Between the two, I think I would go to John Gray, despite the matchup against the Red Sox, despite the fact that Bayo projects out a little bit better. Bayo's cheaper. I'll give him that. 6,800 does put him on that value board. Not uninteresting there, but a very tough matchup against the Rangers. John Gray, I just have a little bit more track record with, a little bit more faith that, the veteran guy could, and that's just kind of putting a bias into it. But I've got more track record with John Gray. There's no other way to put it. 4.05 ERA, 4.38 xFIP on the season, a 21.5% strikeout rate this season. Bayo on the other side, 3.71 ERA, a 3.90 xFIP, a 20.5% strikeout rate. Both serviceable, both in a bad matchup. I probably don't go to either one of them. If I'm building out 150, I would have a handful of shares of both. In one lineup, I'm probably not using either one. On the Red Sox side, Sedan Rafaela, their premium prospect, 56 plate appearances, pretty good so far. 116 WRC plus, a 204 ISO, 296, 321, 500, 2 homers and a stolen base. Kid's done well for himself. 3,600 at shortstop or in the outfield. That's not bad. Do I want my stack from here? What did I say I had? A shortstop and outfielder? It's not ideal because they don't have a good catcher. Reese McGuire. I could one-off catcher, I guess. Continue searching. Rafi Devers, 5,200. It's just too cheap. 12.9% barrels, 54.8% hard hits. He's got 33 home runs at 242 ISO. They lowered his price earlier in the season because he wasn't hitting for as good an average and creating runs quite like he did in the past. He's still not. I mean, he's down 10 points of run creation. He's down less than 20 points now of batting average. But who cares about batting average? The on base is basically the same. He's hit 6 more home runs than he did last year. He's closing in on the total from 2 years ago when he hit for basically the same average. I really don't get why he's that cheap. 5,200. It's a $6,000 player. Justin Turner, 44. Alex Verdugo, 41. Adam Duvall, 43. Those players have 23, 13, and 19 home runs in 593, 575, and 327 plate appearances. They're all above average for run creation. They all put bat on ball fairly well. Masataka Yoshida, only 42. He's got a 40.8% hard hit rate, 15 home runs, slashing 285, 338, 444 with a 109 WRC+. Red Sox are cheap. Bobby Dahlbeck, love Bobby, 2,800. First and third base, 273, 360, 364. 0 home runs, a stolen base, 99 WRC+, in his 25 plate appearances, 30% barrels, 80% hard hits in the tiny sample. Reese McGuire, mixing catcher. Luis Urias, the idea of power, but he hasn't done it like at all this year. 3 home runs in 174. Not ideal for those mixing and matching Luis Urias. On the other side, the Rangers, you can obviously roster the Rangers in basically any situation. Bayo does cut into power a little. 5.4 degree average launch, only 7.1% barrels, 3.22% home runs. So a little bit more limited than usual in terms of the power upside. But the Rangers got Josh Young and Adolis Garcia back. That's a major, major boost to their lineup. We'll see whether they play today. I would expect they would, or at least one of them. I'd be surprised if they were both out of the lineup today. Obviously, a lot of pieces. There's some expensive guys up at the top with Semien and Seager, 6,100, 6,600 for the second baseman, the shortstop. They're obviously well worth it. 25 homers and 14 steals with a 123 WRC plus for Semien. Seager coming in with 31 home runs, a 174 WRC plus. They immediately get priced down, though, because Lowe, Josh Young, Adolis Garcia, Robbie Grossman, if you want to include him, but Jonah Heim, Leody Taveras, Evan Carter, all the rest of these guys in this lineup are very cheap. So if you wanted to go those two guys, and we'll throw Garcia in, and then let's say we just went with like Young and Grossman. Brings it down to 52. That's viable, considering the players that are in that. 26-1. You're getting essentially 4 stars and Robbie Grossman for an average of 52 each. It's not ideal. It's still high priced, but it brings these prices down dramatically. Grossman's playable. 3,100. 10 home runs on the season, a 104 WRC plus. He hasn't been bad. He hasn't been good, but he hasn't been bad. Hits the odd home run from time to time. Had a good week last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. Jonah Heim, good catcher for 3,800. If it's Mitch Garver, so much the better. He's got more power than Heim. Leody Taveras, 3,400 is very cheap. He's declined a little bit in the second half. Still 12 home runs, 14 steals, and 99 WRC plus. Clinging to relevance, if nothing else. Evan Carter's been really good since coming up. 1 home run, 2 stolen bases, a 129 WRC plus from the bottom of the lineup. 3,500, price is still right, easy to get to. Where'd they rank out? Let's see. Texas sitting 4th by points per dollar. That's not bad at all. Or, excuse me, by fantasy points. That's not bad. Boston 6th. Boston showing more value, though. 5th by FanDuel, 7th. I got to stop talking about FanDuel. It's the all-day FanDuel pricing for those who weren't here. So we're basically focused on DK. This is a DK slate. So 7th by points per dollar on DK. 10th by home runs for Boston. Where Texas sits 4th by projections, but 13th by value, 14th by home runs. So I'm going to go Red Sox on top. Red Sox, Rangers, John Gray, Brian Bayo. I'm going to defy the projections across the board, basically. It's all very, very close. 4 corners of this one are all viable. Either one of these guys is viable as a value pitcher. It's just not ideal. They're not in good matchups, but they're both good pitchers. $11:20, an hour to go before lock. Only what? 5 games left? Not bad. We'll make it. Still got to make my decisions. Astros and the Orioles. Got both of these lineups. That's pretty sweet. Might be able to extract my stack from the Orioles. They've got a good catcher and a good shortstop and a good outfielder. That might have just gotten interesting, gang. We'll talk through this one. Christian Javier obviously struggling this season. I got money to spend in that lineup. I think I can afford that. Let's take a look. Kyle Bradish, good pitcher, 9,400, terrible matchup. Don't love the opportunity for price going up against the Astros. 3.12 ERA, 3.62 xFIP, 24.4% strikeouts over 152 and 2/3 in 27 starts. He's been terrific this year. 2.28% home runs, keeping it down to a 7.2 degree average launch on 7.2% barrels. 43.3% hard hits and 90.2 miles an hour of exit velo. We don't care that much because it's on a pretty low trajectory. It's just the fact that the Astros are so low strikeout. They're so talented. There's so much power on that team. That said, no Jordan Alvarez in the lineup today. Noticing that. A little bit of a tick in Kyle Bradish's favor since there's no Jordan. Still not ideal. Altuve's a superstar. Kyle Tucker's a superstar. Alex Bregman's still starish. Chas McCormick is becoming starish. Jainer Diaz has had a star-making kind of a season. He's going to have to do it again another 1 or 2 times, but has had a very good year. A little bit more faith in the Bradish projection and play now, though. Still doesn't project out great at 27.5 on the FanDuel scale, but that's playable at 94. Still a little bit high price for the spot, though. Christian Javier on the other side, 7,900 is cheap for his reputation, for who he's been over the past few years, but he's down 10 points in strikeouts, 11 points in strikeouts this year, 33.2 down to 22.1. Walks are about the same. xFIP has gone way up by about 2 runs, 3.53 to 3.531. ERA's gone from 2.54 to 4.74. Home runs from 2.9 to 4.0. Barrels from 7.2 to 10.1. He's just been a mess this year. Hasn't been pretty for Javier. Has he found any form recently? What's he done in his last couple? Nope. 5 innings, 2 earned runs on 2 home runs, 6 strikeouts at the Royals the last time out. 4 innings against the Pods, gave up a homer, struck out 5, walked 3, 4 earned. 3 earned in the 6 innings against the Yanks before that. 4 earned in 4 innings at the Red Sox before that. Hasn't pitched a clean game. June 15th was the last time Christian Javier pitched without giving up at least 2 runs. That's bananas. Holy shit. That was a start against the Washington Nationals on June 15th. He went 6 innings, allowed 5 hits, only struck out 2, but allowed no runs. That was his only start of the season in which he's allowed no runs. He's allowed at least 2 every start since then. And 2 has only happened 1, 2. 2 has only happened 3 times. 3 has happened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times. The rest are 4 or higher. Not a good season for Javier. Might gotta get into some Orioles here. So I think Bradish is more playable than Javier, obviously, even with the price discrepancy. Javier just looks kind of problematic. 7,900, there's not a ton of value there necessarily. I do believe in the talent. Obviously, we've seen it from him. It will hopefully bounce back next year. I haven't looked at his stuff in a while to see what might be going on there, but really problematic season. Orioles, Gunnar Henderson off the top, 5,300. Nice price for Gunnar. Third base shortstop, 27 homers, 9 steals, a 126 WRC+. Adley gets on like crazy from the catcher spot, 365 on base, 14.6% strikeouts, 13% walks. You better believe I just clicked on his name to go into my catcher spot. So I might be able to get away from that guy as my SP2 and get a better SP2 and a good outfielder here because Anthony Santander only costs 4,300. Cedric Mullin. Now I got to make a decision. Now I might go away from my... Maybe I go 3-man Twins, 5-man Orioles. A really interesting lineup, gang. Houston Kjerstad only 24. I like this Orioles spot a lot now that I'm looking at it. Bear with me as I'm clicking things into my lineup here. Interesting. 1, 2, 3. Whoops. Oh, shit. I just clicked somebody out of it by accident. Didn't mean to do that. Oh, it was Max. All right. Interesting. Still got some work to do on that one. So, Anthony Santander for 4,300. Way too cheap. 10.7% barrels, 45.6% hard hits, 27 homers on the season, a 220 ISO. Ryan O'Hearn hit another one yesterday, 14 homers, up to 311, 339, 519, 208 ISO, creating runs 34% better than average to lead this team outside of Kierstad's 190. That's bananas. Ryan O'Hearn leads this team in WRC Plus right now on a playoff team. 4,400, 3,200 is too cheap for Cedric Mullins. Ryan O'Hearn at 3,500 for what he's done. You're not paying a tax for what he's done. It's pretty cheap. It's not bad. I gotta see what I can fit in here now. I can buy into the hype on him. Gives me 1, 2, 3, 4. Kjerstad, 2,400, has an 87.5% hard hit rate in his 13 plate appearances. He's hit 2 home runs already. He's got a 190 WRC plus. Welcome to the show. Austin Hayes, another good game yesterday. 16 home runs, a 117 WRC plus, 283, 330, 462. Adam Frazier, playable. Ramon Urias, definitely playable. Cheap, sneaky power for Urias. He's only got 4 home runs this year. I prefer him for cheap power rather than Frazier. I know Frazier's got 13 in 431, but that's odd output for him, where Urias hit 16 last year in 445. Frazier had 3 last year in 602 and 5 the year before in 639. So he's exceeded that the last 2 years combined in full seasons by pretty dramatic margin. Had most of those home runs. That's not the first time I've said that this year. Let's put it that way. On the Astros side, definitely playable still, even without their superstar in the lineup. Kyle Tucker's a star. 28 home runs, 28 stolen bases, a 139 WRC plus, 284, 368, 512 for him. Jose Altuve, 17 homers, 13 steals, a 162 WRC plus, a 236 ISO, 314, 398, 550. Those two are absolute priorities, Altuve and Tucker, if you're building Astros stacks. Pena, kind of limited option, hitting second, 262, 323, 384, a 96 WRC plus. He's okay. He's an okay for correlated scoring type option. He's just not the star potential that people were kind of anointing him with after a quick start to last season. Bregman, 5,500, 24 home runs on the year, a 128 WRC plus. Totally playable. Abreu for 4,000, moderately playable. 41.8% hard hits is still good. 8.3% barrels is okay. 235, 295, 371, obviously not great. 17% worse than average, not great. Jainer Diaz, very, very good catcher option. Chas McCormick, very good in the outfield for only 4,500. 281, 362, 497 for Chas with a 137 WRC plus. Pretty killer season for him with 20 home runs, 19 steals. Myers and Maldonado, mix and match options at the back of the lineup. Orioles bats, Astros bats, Kyle Bradish, Christian Javier. Probably would play 3 of those 4. I don't know if I would play Javier. I quite like the Orioles side of that. Lot of value. So much so that now I've got too much money in this lineup that I'm maybe building. Gotta figure out what the hell I'm gonna do, gang. I could drop him. And then who's available from here? Oh, that was the confirmed lineup. DK hasn't updated the confirmed for the Orioles yet. Keep on going. I don't want to bog you guys down watching me watch my phone building lineups. Mamba says, uh-oh, when I see those big blue eyes ears light up, I know it's time to go there. Here we go, O's. Jordan times Jose sold my 6-man. Just a 2x day for me. Bradish destroys Houston, Terry. You know this, says Illegal Form Nation. 87% hard hits for Kjerstad. Is that good? Yeah, your boys are pretty good there, buddy. I tell you what, I would like to see them do well in the postseason. That wouldn't bother me. I have nothing against the Orioles. Yanks, in all likelihood, are not going to be there, especially after dropping last night's game. Kind of critical series for them. I think their tragic number is 5 at this point, and obviously way out of it. But I wouldn't mind seeing the Orioles do well. I think the Braves are going to run away with it as long as they can get anything out of that pitching staff. But it'd be fun to see the Orioles make a little bit of a run. Very good team. And obviously the future is extraordinarily bright for that squad. Steve Mackler, no problem, buddy. Says, thanks for doing this, Slate. I appreciate it. Dude, thank you for showing up and hanging out. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, by the way. You can find out when these weird shows that pop up every now and again go live. We'll have something for football in the next 24 hours or so. Going to hop on and do an early in the week show rather than doing the marathon on Saturday. We'll try and get something out. Was expecting to be working on the projections and finalizing them instead of doing this. And then I learned that this schedule was the way it was. So a little bit of a curveball there in terms of when things go up. But I'll have the football projections up today. We'll do a show either later today, tomorrow morning. We'll crank out a football show at some point very, very soon. I got to figure out what I'm doing here. If I take Julian out, then I lose, so I might as well take... Still trying to figure out the last spot in this lineup. I could go Urias for 27, and then put Julian back there, and that leaves me way too much money. Now I've got stupid lineup. We'll keep plugging away. Guardians, Luke Giolito on the bump. Royals, Zach Greinke. I think we all know we're not playing Zach Greinke. We've got both these lineups. Let me grab them. Giolito's the tough one. He projects out okay. He's going up against the Royals, who are an up-and-down team at best. And I think that's being kind. But Giolito's been an up-and-down pitcher at best this season. Including, of late. What's he done what did he do last time out? Let's see. It's been messy. Last time was good. Yeah. 12 strikeouts against the Rangers, of all teams. 12 Ks against the Rangers, only 2 hits in 7 innings the last time out. Monster start. 9 strikeouts, gave up 3 home runs and 2 earned runs on 3 home runs with 4 total runs. 9 strikeouts. So I guess I must have had an error not in the inning to have a home run not be an earned run. Yeah, that must have been how that was. Just a confusing stat line there with 2 earned runs but 3 home runs. You don't see that all that often. 4 runs total, so 2 of them were unearned on that home run. But a 7-inning start, encouraging that he went 7, that he struck out 9. That was against the Angels. Was very, very messy before that. Against the Twins, gave up 9 earned runs. Against the Phillies, gave up 5. The Phillies game was his last one with LA. The Twins game was his first one with Cleveland. If he's righted the ship a little bit, figured out something, Cleveland pitching staff told him he was tipping pitches. Who knows what the story might have been? But it definitely looks like he's taken steps back toward being Luke Giolito over the last 2. For 7,600, that's kind of compelling. I don't think he's an uninteresting pitcher at that point. So I don't mind the option. He's very cheap. He's obviously got a ceiling. He's going up against the Royals. On the other side, the Guardians' bats, they're also cheap. They're easy enough to get to. They're going up against a pincushion of a pitcher in Zach Greinke. Will Brennan in the leadoff spot for 2,200. Not exactly effective. A 299 on base and 82 WRC plus. Not the ideal leadoff hitter. Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor have been their 2 priority bats all season long. Nothing about that changes today. 24 home runs, 26 stolen bases for Ramirez, a 124 WRC plus, 17 and 9 in 452 plate appearances for Naylor. He only costs 4,200. He should be more expensive too. 309, 350, 499, creating runs 28% better than average, 17 homers, 9 steals, 40.8% hard hits. Should definitely be more expensive. Only strikes out 14.4% of the time. Should be more expensive. Cole Calhoun used to be a good lefty power hitter. Now he's just a guy. 5 home runs and 150 plate appearances for 3,400. Totally affordable. Ramon Laureano, 3,300. 9 homers, 9 steals in 374. Meh. Andres Jimenez, 3,700. 13 homers, 30 steals. 96 WRC plus. He's pulled the counting stats together a little bit. 249, 316, 392. He should just be a better overall hitter. Get on base a little bit more. Hits for no power. 5.4% barrels, 26.6% hard hits. Part of the problem. Miles Straw, Jose Tena, Cam Gallagher. Mix and match options down the bottom. Straw's really here for defense. Gallagher, a negative 10 WRC plus in his 140 plate appearances. Tena, a 190, 261, 238 with a 42 WRC plus in 23 plate appearances. On the Royals side, you can definitely target some Luke Giolito as well, although I prefer using him rather than targeting him, I think, just given the cheap price today. Michael Garcia for 3,700 at least gives you 22 stolen bases if he manages to get on. He's got a 326 on base, which isn't ideal, and 87 WRC plus, but he hits ahead of Bobby Witt. That's obviously a pretty good spot in the lineup. Witt for 5,900, a great shortstop, 277, 319, 493, 114 WRC plus. Not a lot of support for him in the lineup. That's the one problem he's got, but he's a spectacular individual player. MJ Melendez for 3,300 hit his 15th home run, 163 ISO. Still makes great contact, 50.1% hard hits, 11.7% barrels. Should be a better power hitter than he is from the left side. Nelson Velasquez has 14 home runs and 145 plate appearances, a 369 ISO, monster contact numbers. I don't think that this all maintains over the course of time, but he hasn't been priced up for this outrageous outburst, so might as well grab him while he's cheap. Edward Olivares, 100 cheaper. He's got 10 home runs, 9 steals, and 354. A decent hitter, 265, 319, 446, a 104 WRC plus. Not bad. Mike Massey, 3,200 for a lefty second baseman. Not bad for the price. 14 home runs, only a 71 WRC plus. 432 plate appearances of decent contact, though, for the cheap price at second base. If you're targeting Lucas Giolito, I would include Mike Massey. Lofton, Waters, and Porter at the bottom, kind of mix and match options, although Lofton does have a 160 WRC plus with a 359, 419, 538 over 43 plate appearances. That's kind of interesting. Tiny sample doesn't really mean anything. Drew Waters has stolen 13 bases, hit 8 home runs, 85 WRC plus. Not completely dead at the plate, 10.5% barrels, but obviously not ideal, 15% worse than average creating runs. Lucas Giolito, considering the value price, gotta go there. Considering the strikeout totals the last 2 times out. Lucas Giolito, Guardians bats, Royals bats, don't roster Zach Greinke. Even at 5,800, even on DK. Just don't do it. Mariners, Athletics, Joey Estes, George Kirby. Kirby was the top of the board for pitching today. Love the spot for George Kirby. Going up against one of the lower end lineups in all of baseball. Kirby's obviously a very, very good pitcher. Last time out, 6 innings, gave up 4. The time before that, 6 1/3, also gave up 4. The time before that, only lasted 3, gave up 3, struck out 3. Not the best performances overall for him. 6 strikeouts, 7 strikeouts each of the last 2. The 6 1/3 was the game. That was him, right? That was didn't want to pitch in the 7th inning. Right, that was him, right? Yeah. So the 6 1/3 was against the Rays. He ended up giving up 4, but I think he hadn't given up any. Maybe he'd given up 1 through 6, and they put him back out there for the 6, and then he gave a press conference after the game saying, like, I didn't want to pitch that last inning. I shouldn't have put me back out there. So he only went 6 in the following start. Also gave up 4 in that one, but struck out 7. An okay start there, but not what we were looking for, obviously. But hyper playable in this spot. Overall for the season, 23% strikeouts, a microscopic. Remember when I said that some of the kids do it better than Luis Castillo in terms of limiting the walks? There you go. 2.6% walks. It's dramatic. That's amazingly good. 1.05 whip just limits opportunities like crazy. 3.57 ERA with a 3.66 xFIP. Doesn't give up a lot of power. The Athletics do have a little bit of power, obviously. A lot of double-digit barrel rates, some 40+% hard hit rates there. But it's a flawed team overall. There's tons and tons of strikeouts available. I love the opportunity for George Kirby here. 9,700 is a fair price. Joey Estes on the other side, making his major league debut. 5,000. He's super cheap. Seemed like he's stretched out. Oh, not Sean Estes. He was pitching to like a 23% strikeout rate in AAA this season. 21.5% strikeouts in AAA in 32 and 2/3 in 6 starts, in 104 and a third in 17 starts at AA. He had a 23.3% strikeout rate. 3.28 ERA with a 4.91 xFIP at AA, 5.23 ERA with a 6.06 xFIP at AAA. Not ideal. 21 years old, came into the season ranked 14th organizationally. Don't really know a ton about him in terms of like the stuff, the makeup. Yeah, it looks like they're just giving him a cup of coffee. Young kid, I mean, 21, so it makes sense that they'd just give him a cup of coffee here, set him up to maybe hit the ground running last year. Whew. Brain's a little tired. Yeah, nobody's got anything on his makeup really. He was acquired in the Matt Olson deal with the Braves. They have not done well in that trade so far, or in the trade with the Yankees. Fly ball pitcher. All right, this is per Sports Illustrated. Sports Illustrated Fan Nation, though. Take it for what it's worth. Fly ball pitcher, netting just a 33.3% ground ball rate in the minors. 34.3% ground ball rate is the highest he's had in his career in the minors. Gave up 10 home runs. Oof, 2.76. I missed that. 2.76 home runs per 9. That's not sustainable. Where was that? Oh, that was in the 32 and 2/3. See, this is why I hate these stupid fan articles. Yeah, 2.76% home run rate or 2.76 home runs per 9 in the 6 starts in AAA, 32 and 2/3 innings. He did give up 10 home runs to 144 AAA hitters, so that's not ideal. But it's also a flawed stat to cite. In 104 and a third in AA, he gave up 14 home runs to 430 hitters, a 1.21 home run per 9. That's probably the more realistic overall number. But obviously, you can roster some Mariners against this kid. There's tremendous upside for their bats. There's tremendous upside for their power. Makes a ton of sense to me that they would have a pretty good day here. So I don't think we go to Joey Estes, even 5,000 on the DK slate. Probably not enough on the bone there. J.P. Crawford at the top of the lineup on the other side, 4,100, a dynamite shortstop option. Gets on at a 382 clip, has 16 home runs of his own, creates runs 33% better than average. Ties directly into Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, Teoscar Hernandez, Eugenio Suarez, all their power. Double-digit barrel rates for all those guys. All those guys above and well above for some of them, 40% hard hits. 30 home runs, 28, 25, 21. Pretty dynamite power core there. Yeah, they all strike out at a pretty aggressive clip. Including Jared Kelenic in that, it is a 28.9%. It's pretty high. If we exclude Julio with his 23 and just focus on these 4, it's 30.1% strikeouts. There are strikeouts available for Joey Estes. I just don't think in his Major League debut here he's going to find them. I see this as more of a power opportunity for Seattle. Teoscar's been good this year, 265, 311, 449, creating runs 9% better than average. Eugenio doesn't hit for anything other than home runs, really. 231, 324, 389, 102 WRC+, 21 homers. Kelenic's got 11 homers, 12 steals, 251, 319, 428. Is involved, 106 WRC+. He stayed on the positive side of run creation. He only costs 3,800. A lot of cheap bats in the Mariners lineup as well. A couple really compelling sources of value. I think it's pretty easy to put together like the Orioles and the Twins, the Orioles, and the Mariners, and get to 2 pretty pricey pitchers. It's kind of what I'm struggling with in this lineup I'm trying to hand build in the next 35 minutes. Ty France, 3,600, a viable part at first base. Half the home runs he hit last year, but a 102 WRC+. Dominic Canzone, Josh Rojas, mix and match plays for 32, 34 at outfield and second base. Each has a little bit of individual capability. They haven't been great so far this season, though. 167 plate appearances for Canzone, does have 5 home runs, but only a 75 WRC+. Rojas, 3 homers, 11 steals, a 76 WRC+. On the A's side of things, I don't really want to attack George Kirby all that much. He doesn't allow a ton of power, and he isn't going to give up that many opportunities to hit multi-run home runs, even if they do get them. So I don't really like this option. Tony Kemp, not a good leadoff hitter, 307 on base, a 79 WRC+. These guys are the interesting ones if you're going to this team. Ryan Noda draws walks like crazy, but again, Kirby only walks 2.6%. That'll be an interesting matchup a couple times over. 15 home runs for Noda, 375 on base is pretty killer. Zach Geloff, 47-34. 12 home runs, 12 steals, a 139 WRC plus, 251 ISO. Very good contact. Seth Brown, very good contact from the left side for 3,000, has 13 home runs in 356 plate appearances. Shea Langoliers is a cheap catcher at 2,900. He's got a very good contact profile. He's got 20 home runs on the season. Another guy who doesn't do anything else. 202, 265, 402. All he does is hit cheap home runs, but he's got 20 of them. Lawrence Butler, 12.1% barrels. Mediocre hard hit rate. 4 home runs in 97 plate appearances. Not bad. Jordan Diaz, mix and match option. He's got 10 homers in 270. Tyler Soderstrom, their top prospect, only cost 2,100 a catcher. That's a little piece of value. Nick Allen, 2,000. It's not great value because it's at the bottom of a lineup that we don't really want to go to, but he's very cheap. If you want to one-off a catcher, that's not a bad option. George Kirby way up top. Mariners bats, Athletics bats. I wouldn't go to Joey Estes. Even at 5,000, I just don't see him making value. Two good pitchers in this one. Two good pitchers projecting out pretty well in this one. I like both sides. I guess I have to prefer the Merrill Kelly side. We're looking for strikeouts there, obviously. 26.5% strikeout rate for Kelly. Very, very good season from him. 3.45 ERA and a 3.76 xFIP. Going up against a team that does have a pretty high strikeout rate, 22.9% for this projected lineup. We'll see what comes out. It could be higher. It could be. This would probably represent the low point overall for the Giants lineup in terms of strikeouts. There's definitely strikeout potential for them. They're an okay power hitting team, but they're not a great power hitting team. A lot of guys in just the mid-teens, even with some of the lefties with power reputation, like Jock Peterson, only 14 homers. Yaz, only 14 homers. 15 for Michael Conforto. So not a great power hitting team. Not a lot of threatening hitters here. For a pitcher who's only allowing a 2.77% home run rate, 7.3% barrels, a decent 11.5% degree average launch angle. He doesn't limit home run power like Logan Webb on the other side, 1.3 degrees for him. 45.2% hard hits and 90.9 miles an hour of exit velo. We don't really care that much when it's on this kind of a trajectory when he's limiting barrels like he does. 2.53% home runs. He's given up a few more this year than in years past. But overall, very, very good pitcher. A 3.31 ERA, a 2.98 xFIP, 201 innings and 31 starts. Your major league leader in innings pitched. The best option on the slate to give you 7 or 8 innings. Pitch a clean game. He can compile strikeouts even against a low strikeout team like the Diamondbacks. If he goes 7, if he goes 8, obviously there's strikeout potential there. 23.2% strikeouts on the season, only 3.7% walks. Another guy who's just spectacular at limiting opportunities, if nothing else. Really like Logan Webb. 8,400, very, very good price for him. 10-1 on the FanDuel all day. You can go to bats on both sides in this one. I prefer the Diamondbacks bats, and you have to target Logan Webb and hope that they sequence okay, because they're not going to really hit for much power against them. The Giants just a little bit less reliable, a little more high strikeout, and Merrill Kelly striking out more hitters, giving up a little bit more in terms of runs, a little bit more in terms of the hard hits are about even. A little bit more in terms of walks for sure. If you're going to Diamondbacks, Corbin Carroll off the top, he's cooled a lot. 24 home runs, 48 stolen bases is still a fantastic season, but he's definitely come down overall in production. 5,700 is expensive, but okay. 4,800 for Ketel Marte's a bargain. 23 home runs, 7 stolen bases, a 208 ISO. Creating runs 28% better than average. Tommy Pham for 3,900. He's had a great year. 16 homers, 21 steals, a 119 WRC plus, maintaining a 205 ISO. Leading the team with a 49.8% hard hit rate and 11% barrels. Christian Walker, 11% barrels, 30 home runs, only strikes out 19.4% of the time. Alec Thomas, Lourdes Gurriel, Gabe Moreno, all 3 of those guys are playable. My favorite out of the group is probably Lourdes Gurriel for 3,500. He's got 24 home runs this season, a 213 ISO, a 109 WRC plus. Gabe Moreno is a very good catcher option, though. 41.7% hard hits, 286, 337, 415 with a 103 WRC plus, 7 home runs, 6 steals. Very good option there. And then Jace Peterson and Geraldo Perdomo, playable mix-ins at the bottom of the lineup. Peterson gives you those weird games with a little bit of power. He's got 6 home runs and 412 plate appearances. Wildly inconsistent. But it seems like when he does have a game, he has a game, and it means something. There's nothing at all predictive about that. It's just kind of observational. but it does happen. Geraldo Perdomo, 358 on base, decent wraparound play, a little bit of speed, okay average, 102 WRC plus. I'm really interested in the on base though. Draws a decent walk rate, doesn't strike out, wraps directly back around to those guys. If you go to the Giants side, I would focus probably on some of the lefty power. Lamont Wade, Mike Yastrzemski, Jock Peterson, Michael Conforto would be your priorities. Wade gets on at a pretty good clip. 378 on base. Like him in the leadoff spot, drawing 14.7% walks against a pitcher who does walk players. So that would be the compelling reason to roster Giants. Hope that this guy gets on. Hope that Yaz does something, or one of these guys. They gotta do a little bit of sequencing of their own. They gotta get on base, but they do have some good walk rates in this lineup, so they have an opportunity to sequence a little bit against Kelly, if they can avoid the strikeouts. Wade for 34, it's a very good price too. He's got a pretty decent contact profile. He's got 15 home runs, a 124 WRC plus. Yaz for 4,000, pretty cheap. 14 homers, a 219 ISO. He's been their best power bat over the course of the season. 348 plate appearances explains the home run total overall. Everything else is pretty good. Wilmer Flores, 32.4% hard hits, 7.7% barrels. He does have 22 home runs, 289, 357, 520. Creating runs 39% better than average. Pretty good stat line for 4,300. Wilmer's a good player. He's been good over the course of time. He's been their leader basically this season in terms of hitting across the board. The power, 22 homers is a little high for a guy with that contact profile, but we've seen Wilmer do this over several different seasons, so it's fairly realistic. Jock Peterson, 11.8% barrels, leads the team with a 52% hard hit rate. Only 14 homers and 392 for Jock. Feels a little bit low. It's not a bad relative total, but it feels a little low. Only a 184 ISO. Feels a little low. Conforto, 3,300, very cheap. 246, 339, 395. Still not totally back to form. Was a much better hitter than this. Mediocre power, or middling power. Not mediocre, middling. 15 home runs, a 149 ISO. Mitch Haniger, 3,800, 6 home runs and 218 plate appearances. The memory of being a dynamite power hitter, 11.4% barrels, 47.9% hard hits for 3,800. There's something there. 2,800 for Pat Bailey, 32 for Brandon Crawford, and then 45 for Tyro Estrada at the bottom. Estrada's kind of an interesting wraparound. 22 steals, 12 home runs, 278, 323, 424. Needs to get on base a little bit more. But a guy with that profile, guy who puts the ball in play pretty consistently, doesn't walk a ton, doesn't strike out like crazy. That's a little higher than you'd want, but not a bad wraparound option. Put him back in front of Wade Yastrzemski. What you're hoping for there is he gets on, and then one of these guys hits a home run. Not a great option, but they're playable, considering the walks, considering some relative power. Logan Webb, Merrill Kelly, Diamondbacks bats, Giants bats. All four corners are playable, but I strongly prefer the pitching. Last one up, it's 11:53. I'll have a little time to tinker with this lineup after we're done here. Jimmy James says, what's going on, Sarah? Who's your favorite contrarian stack today? Steve Mackler asks, who are your favorite two pitchers? And Alan S says, stack O's or Guardians on DK single entry. I think that's definitely the Orioles. The Orioles are just a much, much better team. If you can afford them, definitely the Orioles. Mama says, Terry, pay for Julio. I would definitely pay for Julio if I was building out a Mariners stack. I might throw him in. I got to make a decision there. I'm not sure which way to go. Now I got tangled up between the Orioles, Mariners, and the Twins. I like all three of those teams to address the contrarian stacks. I don't know how contrarian they necessarily are, but one of those teams will probably be lower owned than the other two at the very least. I think there's some very interesting value pricing on all three teams, the Orioles, the Twins, and the Mariners. The Twins ranked at the top, third by projections, first overall on both sites for value, fourth by home runs. The Orioles ranked 10th, kind of in the middle of the board, and then the Mariners actually ranked downboard a little bit, but have an 8th ranked home run upside and a lot of cheap parts going up against a kid making his debut who gives up a bunch of home runs in the minors, who doesn't strike out that many. It's an interesting spot for the Mariners bats. A one-off Julio. I would also do that. No issues with that. One of the best players in baseball. I'll take him as my one-off for sure. Baltimore plus Julio, let's do it. Sign me up, buddy. Might have to do that. Might have to steal that one. I like the suggestion. So what did I not answer? Steve Mackler, favorite two pitchers? It depends. I mean, that doesn't exist in a vacuum, obviously. If I could just grab it off the top, like George Kirby, I know I said Logan Webb was my preferred option in that game, but given by the projections, you could just go Kirby Kelly. But obviously, that's very, very expensive. That said, it's easy to get to. The lineup I put together before, I had more money. I had like 10-4 left over, so I could have gotten Nola, and Kirby was already in it. So there are ways to put together a lineup that is a good lineup with two high-priced pitchers today. So I don't think you need to dip into the extreme value guys. But like Lucas Giolito for 7,600 is very, very interesting to me on the DK slate. I think that's a nice piece of value. You got to hope that he's truly found his form, like we've seen over the last two starts. I don't love Hunter Green or Bailey Ober pitching in that Reds ballpark. I like Webb. I like the Lugo opportunity quite a bit for 86. I think that's a very interesting option if you want to drop down a little bit in price from these guys. So I would probably go George Kirby, and then any one of Kelly, Lugo, Webb would be as my favorites. Speaking of Seth Lugo, 23.1% strikeouts on the season, a 3.83 ERA, a 3.72 xFIP. Going up against one of the absolute worst teams in baseball. We looked at their splits against lefties yesterday, and by far the worst mark for run creation against left-handed pitching in the last 10 years at least of baseball. I suspect it goes back even further than that. Against righties, they're not as bad, but they're pretty bad. Lugo, basically on form. 6 innings last time, gave up 3, 2 home runs, struck out 7. Ugly one the start before that, but it was at Houston against the Astros, so, we'll forgive it a little bit. 2 strikeouts, 3 walks, 6 earned runs in that one, give up a homer. 6 innings, clean, 3 hits, struck out 4 against the Giants, start before that. 2 earned, struck out 6 in 6 against the Cardinals in St. Louis. A lot of 6-inning starts. Peaks around 7, but a good number of 6-inning starts in his game log this year, so pretty decent depth. 131 and 2/3 in 24 starts, not bad at all. 5.7% walks, not bad at all. Not terrible for power. 9.3 degrees average launch. Few too many barrels, few too many hard hits, few too much exit velo. 3.30% home run rate. Against the Rockies, I'll take it. Not really going to sweat the matchup. Active roster righties. To put a point on it, they've climbed a little bit. They're up to 27th, 85 WRC plus. Puts them in a tie for 28th with Detroit, but spot ahead of the Nationals and 2 spots ahead of the Angels at the bottom of the board. But overall, a bad lineup. They also have a 25.6% strikeout rate against righties, a 155 ISO. Just not a good team. That's the second highest strikeout rate against righties in all of baseball, behind the Twins at 26.3%. Like the spot for Lugo, 8,600, fair price, projects out very, very well. Chase Anderson, I don't think we go to at all on the other side. 17.3% strikeouts, giving up a 5.17% home run rate, 8.9% barrels. Only 30.9% hard hits. This doesn't go at all with this or this. That doesn't really make much sense. 75 innings, 15 starts, a 6 ERA, a 5.44 xFIP. I think you can target Chase Anderson all day with Padres bats if you want. Xander Bogaerts in the leadoff spot, up to 280. Look at Xander surge. Reclaiming his season, 19 homers, 17 steals, a 120 WRC plus. Boy, I'm glad we never gave up on that guy. Fernando Tatis, Juan Soto, Manny Machado, 3 stars in a row. 25 home runs, 32 home runs, 28 home runs, 118, 151, and 111 WRC plus. 4 premium options off the top for the Padres. Luis Campusano, good catcher option, 307, 348, 484 with a 130 WRC plus, 7 home runs and 164. Climbing the lineup a little bit, not bad at all. Jurickson Profar, falling precipitously in the lineup. 3,500, doesn't really belong in a major league lineup. First base and outfield eligible, oddly. 9 home runs, a 76 WRC plus. Matt Batten, second base and third base for 2,900. Playable part, 111 WRC plus and 102. Trent Grisham, we talk about a lot, should be better given his contact profile. Dead at the Mendoza line, 314, 355. 8% worse than average creating runs, 13 homers, 14 steals, playing every day. Eggy. Did Eggy do something yesterday? Did he have these 2 home runs yesterday? I can't remember. 23 plate appearances for Eggy, 2 home runs, 85 WRC plus. I'm calling him Eggy because that's what we came up with yesterday on the show. He did not hit a home run yesterday. Yesterday he went 0 for 4 after we found out that he existed. 2,500 at third base. Moderately playable. If I'm remembering correctly, it didn't look like his minor league performances lined up with the mediocre scouting report. Yeah, 22 homers, 21 steals in AAA last year. Moderately interesting. If you're stacking Padres, you could do worse. Third baseman, though, not ideal. You do get shortstop eligibility on Manny, but that's a positional conflict with Bogey, so it doesn't really help. It is interesting that you get the eligibility, though. Padres bats. No, excuse me. Seth Lugo, Padres bats. Nothing really from the Rockies side. If you're going to Rockies, I forgot to do them. If you're going to Rockies, 4,100 for Charlie Blackmon is a good price. 372 on base, a 109 WRC plus. Nolan Jones is their second best hitter for 4,300. Good power from the left side. 15.2% barrels, 40.1% hard hits. 17 homers, 16 steals, and only 376 plate appearances. Very, very good player. If anybody's going to ruin Seth Lugo's day, it's probably Nolan Jones. Tovar hasn't been good, 73 WRC plus, 15 homers, 11 steals. Chris Bryant hasn't been good, 81 WRC plus, and only 311 plate appearances. Second lost season in a row for Chris Bryant since joining Colorado. Eleodis Montero, Elias Diaz, mix and match parts. Diaz, a capable enough catcher, 83 WRC plus, not great, but the triple slash is okay. The 14 home runs are okay. 7 homers in 269 for Montero, a kid who did hit for power in the minors. It's good to see this home run total. It's going up a little bit, but he hasn't been good overall. 69 WRC plus, a 290 on base. Ryan McMahon late in the lineup for 4,400. Probably going to hit more up here than down here. Their best power hitter from the left side, 23 home runs, a 199 ISO. Their best power hitter, not named Nolan Jones at this point anyway. Brendan Rodgers, Brenton Doyle, mix and match options. Rodgers hasn't done much in 143. Hitting for a little bit of average, 315, 313 on the back end of the triple slash, a .061 ISO, and a 60 WRC plus. This team's bad for a reason. It's always important to remember that all these numbers also include their Coors Field games. Just totally terrible. So, to reiterate, Seth Lugo, Padres bats, nothing from the Rockies. And that is that. Josh Gillum says Twins lineup kind of bad. I think Twins lineup kind of good. We can jump back to it real quick. They are playing there they are. Kind of good, 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 kind of good. These guys I'll give you. Although Mikey A's kind of good. So like kind of good, 1 through 6, kind of good 9. Not kind of bad. Yeah, it's not ideal. No Carlos Correa. No Joey Gallo. No Byron Buxton, obviously. But Kepler's a very good lefty power hitter. Whoops. There's a formula for you. Look at this craziness. Just to get the goddamn name to appear. Kepler's a very good power hitter for very cheap prices. 22 home runs. Solano gets on base. Good average. Not much in terms of power, but creates runs because he gets on base. Jorge Polanco, very, very good player. 14.5% barrels, 42% hard hits, 13 homers, a 120 WRC plus in half a season. Edward Julian, also a half a season, 14 home runs. Another very good player. Jeffers better than Vasquez, sure. I don't disagree with that. No Kirilloff. I don't really care about Kirilloff. No Kyle Lewis. Meh. Don't really care about that. I like Kyle Farmer. I think he's for 2,700 at second base and third base. This guy who hit sneaky home runs. 14 last year, 16 the year before, 11 this year. Willie Castro steals bases. I'm not saying they're a good team. I'm not saying this is a good lineup or a lineup that I would want as a fan. But for DFS purposes, with these prices going up against Hunter Green in this ballpark, there's definitely upside for that lineup. Yeah, Royce Lewis. The Kyle Lewis thing threw me there for a second, Josh. I was like, Kyle Lewis, wait, he's not on this team, is he? That's why I kind of was just like, yeah, I don't care about that. Every now and then, if I hit something I don't know about, I'll just skip over it real quick. But yeah, it would have surprised me if Kyle Lewis was on this team. He's on, who's he on now? Diamondback still? I think he's still on there. Pops up every now and then. But yeah, it's a diminished version of their lineup for sure. But I still like it. I still like the players that are in it. A lot of 40+% hard hit rates among the key players. A lot of double-digit barrel rates. A lot of hitters that I trust as home run hitters. So for DFS purposes, I'm in. And it's a great ballpark situation. Going up against a pitcher who allows a lot of opportunities. He strikes out a ton, but he allows a lot of opportunities. 10.5% walk rate, 1.40 whip. Giving up a lot of premium contact against a team that does hit home runs. Mama says, just made the Baltimore stack I think Terry was looking at. Text green, game over. Love it. So with that, let me get out of here so that I can finish off that lineup with 15 minutes to go. But one last look at the pitching board. Like all three of these options and Logan Webb. I do like Bailey Ober and Hunter Green, and I do think that they're capable of beating those teams in that ballpark. But just comparative to these guys, I think the ballpark downgrades their opportunities. Lucas Giolito's a dynamite option for 7,600. May or may not work out. He's had an awful season. But for 7,600 going up against the Royals, that's a very good option that I think should be a part of your plans. Aaron Nola, difficult spot for 10,000 against Atlanta, most expensive pitcher on the slate. Obviously, one of the highest ceilings on the slate, if not the highest ceiling on the slate in a vacuum. But going up against Atlanta hasn't been friendly to anybody this season. Kyle Bradish against the Astros gets the uptick from not having to face Jordan, but difficult spot. Obviously, some of us, like Illegal Form Nation, bigger fans of that spot than others. Illegal Form's going to the Orioles-Bo Sox game next Friday. That's pretty awesome. That'll be a fun one. Bayo, playable against Texas. John Gray, playable against Boston on the other side of that game. Josiah Gray, playable against the White Sox for 6,500. Not ideal. White Sox were showing some power, but I think he's playable. I think you could squeak that one through at 65 if you didn't want to go to Bayo at 68. But I also don't think you need the extreme value pitching on this slate. There's a lot of ways to put this together with bats and get to a couple of fairly expensive pitchers. Christian Javier against the Orioles. I'm on the Orioles side of that one. He's just been atrocious all year. Bryce Elder, not enough ceiling going up against the Phillies. Fair price. For clean innings, that's not a bad price on DK. Clean innings and a win, which I think they have a shot to get. But just with a lot of ceiling guys for similar prices, I don't love the option for Bryce Elder. Bottom of the board, I wouldn't go to any of these guys, even for price. That is it, gang. 12:07, up and out. Not sure if we're coming back for the FanDuel slate later on. I'll probably throw up like at least the power index and the stacks tool for that stupid 5-game and 4-game night slate for DK. Not sure if we're going to do a show for that one. I'll let you guys know. Hit the subscribe button. That'll pop it up and help you guys find out whether that happens later on. Hit the like button. Helps me out. Podegen Stoner made it. Wake and bake DFS baseball bitches for real this time. 421 subs. Yeah, we hit 420 yesterday, buddy. I don't know if you were here. Finally made it. No hit tool? I don't know what you're referring to, but yeah, hit tool. So with that, gang, I'm going to punch out for a little bit. Might catch up to you later on, might not. I'll be around the Discord if nothing else. So somebody, good luck out there. Somebody go win something. I'll see you later.